Today is World Diabetes Day, and during this Veterans Month, we are looking at an often overlooked diabetes-related complication, foot ulcers. 1 in 4 people with diabetes will develop a foot ulcer, and globally, someone loses a leg to complications every 20 to 30 seconds. Here to help us understand this issue is Dr. Zaid Fadul, a U.S. Air Force veteran and flight surgeon who leads Wound Care 360 as Chief Medical Officer. Dr. Fadul, thanks so much for being with me this morning.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, I know that most people think of diabetes in terms of blood sugar and insulin, but why are foot ulcers such a critical yet often overlooked complication?
It's a great question. So diabetes, everybody is very focused appropriately on their blood sugars, but what they don't realize is the net effect of those blood sugars. If your blood sugars are high, it starts to weaken your blood vessels, which then doesn't feed your nerves, and then you don't feel these little wounds starting to develop. When you get those little foot ulcers that start to develop because the blood flow is not as good as it used to be, it doesn't heal. It doesn't heal, it leads to an infection, and then eventually people get limbs cut off as a way of dealing with it if it spreads too quickly.
I would imagine, is this a sign then of advanced diabetes, or for lack of a better non-medical term?
Sure. I mean, typically you can get away with high blood sugars for a little while, but after a year or two, you start seeing these really, difficult complications. If you think about it, your foot is the furthest from the heart, and the sugar settles there. So that's the first set of blood vessels that are going to corrode. Typically, are the farthest from the heart, because the circulation is so poor. So it's one of the early signs, but it definitely is a sign of advanced diabetes. What
advancements then in wound care or early detection are helping prevent amputations today that weren't available just a few years ago?
You know, Ben Franklin said that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and he was totally right. So for most people, it's really just a matter of surveillance and traditional wound care. If you're checking your feet on a regular basis, going to see your podiatrist once a year at least, and things along those lines, you'll catch these early. If it starts to develop now and you have access to care, that's one of the biggest things. And so mobile wound care has filled the gap. Years ago, we didn't really have this, but now we send providers out to the home. And then even more fantastic is these bioengineered skin grafts. And so you can actually help close wounds faster and more efficiently and more consistently with these bioengineered skin grafts. There's also smart wound bandages now that can track pH balance and temperature and pick up levels of inflammation prior to a full ulcer developing. So there's a lot of really fantastic advancements in the last 5 years.
Okay, and I think paying attention is, other than taking care of yourself, is the most important, thing to make sure it doesn't get to a point where an amputation would have to occur. Dr. Zaid Fadul, thank you so much, Chief Medical Officer at Wound Care 360. We really appreciate your insight and information on, this very important medical topic.
Thank you for having me.